Well, hello everybody. I decided to make a quick video taking my XTI back apart. There was a lot of questions. Already got it out of stock, of course. Get the trigger plate off. Some little bitty screws. So I'm not going to take the trigger all the way apart. I'm just going to pull out the little arm that goes up and contacts the bolt and is used for cocking the hammer. See, that's all you need to take out to get the bolt out. And I'll take the stabilizer back apart too and show you how that goes together. So here's the plate. I'll set it over the side. So I don't have my pins set up ready to go. I don't remember what size they were. Hold on a second. So use these little gauge pins. Like I said, you can use a screwdriver or a drill bit or anything like that. Just make sure they fit the hole. I can put something in there sideways and get them to break loose. This is actually a little bolt. And once it got loose, you can turn it out by hand. Might eventually make a little tool to do all these things, but there's no reason yet. Comes apart easy enough. Well, once you figure out how to take it apart. So here's a little pin that comes out. It's threaded. It's got the holes on top. We'll lay it over here to the side. And there's also you got the lever, and you also have a little bushing underneath the lever. So just you can slide it out with your hand. I'm just trying not to get grease on me. There's a little cocking lever. I'll lay it over here on the side. And then a little round bushing right here. I have to lay it over here on the side. So now we can take out the plug for the hammer, or the hammer adjuster. I know you guys are restricted over there, but man, I would immediately take that out and cut a slot in it or something so you can adjust it. You have to be able to adjust your hammer. So my little set screw, there's a set screw inside here. I already had it loosened up so I could adjust it. So this is the hammer and the hammer spring. So the hammer comes out fairly easy. Got to have the little gauge pins there to get it out. Now it's going to hit the sear a little bit. I don't think I have to take it out. I think I can just push it up. Looks like I got to pull this little piece here. I got to take this piece up before I can get the hammer out. So. No big deal, just the one piece. And here's the hammer. I put it in. I cleaned everything out inside. I put it in there dry. I polished this area here. This was already polished, but I hit it again when it was in the lathe. So I polished both ends. There's a little like a nylon guide right there, and there's one up here for the small end. So I set it there. And somebody asked about this little screw that's inside there. Unfortunately, I didn't think this through. I might have to take this off in order to get it out. Hold on. So I'm taking these 2 screws loose. Then we'll show this trigger we got to take out to get access to that little screw. I'll show you in just a second. And definitely take pictures of everything before you start yanking everything apart. I do. I can't remember shit anymore. So all this comes out. I can just set it over on the side. Find me the right bit to go in this little screw. So this goes through the block up into, there's a slot in the bottom of the stabilizer. So when you cock the gun, you pull the lever back, it actually catches the end of the stabilizer and holds it, so when you cock it back, it's pushing the stabilizer to the front of the bolt. I will show you when it's out. There's a little pin. So with that out, another reason I want to take this gun apart, I'm going to drill a hole through that so I don't never have to deal with this little screw. This is a very little itty bitty screw that goes in here. And if this pin ever got jammed up in there, or you broke this little screw off, then you would have to drill blindly through the top of the receiver. And so I'm going to make a little drill guide, and so I can slide it in the hole, and I can get me a fairly small drill bit. I'll get the drill bit the size of my smallest punch, and make a, so to make this a fairly small hole to go in there. So you run the screw down, and it was I gotta get another screwdriver. Hold on. Sorry, I had to get some screwdrivers. This is a spur of the moment thing. Decided to make this video real quick. But I'm using my phone, not a GoPro. I was being lazy. So I'm gonna put some tape on here to protect the receiver so I don't put any marks on it. At least the tape will stay. Like I said, just lay anything on there. It doesn't make any difference. So how I did it originally, it'll probably come out, it's probably looser now because I had it out. So I got 2 screwdrivers and one on each end, and just lift it up on it. It moved a little bit. So there's the pin, and if you can look at it close, you'll see there's a flat on one side. The flat goes on this side, it's facing that way, and the flat is cut into the block. It's not cut into that. That's round in there. So anyway, with that pin out, I can slide my bolt out. And there's the bolt where I polished it. I put the bolt in there dry. I cleaned the spring up, polished the ends, cleaned all the crap out inside there, and there was a lot of it. So I know this is a thing everybody really wants to see, is the stabilizer. So just because I've seen, can't remember the fella that's asked so many times, but a couple of people wanted to see what the screw looked like. For the stabilizer screw, it's just a plain Allen screw. There goes all my fancy settings, right? I'm not really convinced the stabilizer does a whole lot. There's the little set screw, or the and this is a blind hole. It's not threaded all the way through, in case you wanted to know. So it can only go in one way, and it will bottom out. So there's a little Allen screw. There's 2 small pinholes inside this that goes into this chamber. So to get this apart, I need some more guide pins. That one's a little bit tight. So I found with 2 guide pins, I couldn't put something against that and get it to rotate without, I didn't want to touch the inner probe there. But I found if I put 3 on it, I'll use this lever, put 3 on it, put these little Nipex pliers on there, and I can get it to move without doing anything to hurt the well, I did yesterday at least. There we go. See, I'm not actually touching the probe, and I got the brake loose. I wasn't getting all crazy when I put it back together, but first time it was tight, but it came loose. So I got it loose, didn't put any marks on anything. So that's just a little plug, and then your probe comes out. So this piece has an O-ring on it, and it bottoms out inside here, and then that holds it down in there tight. So your actual stabilizer see what it looks like. So this is what they're calling the stabilizer. So you got this sits in this bolt, like right to that line, and this sits up inside here. So when you shoot, the air goes through this and it pushes this backwards until it bottoms out back here. And then when you cock the gun, it's holding, this pin is coming up and catching this slot. So when you cock the bolt, it's actually dragging this piston back. I'm calling it a piston, it's actually called something else. It actually pulls it back forward and resets it. That's what this little pin is for. So if you, and I had to clean it really good, and then I could eventually shine a light inside here, and I could see 2 small little pinholes back there in the very center back there, or a little bit off center. So as you run your adjusting screw in there, it eventually starts blocking probably the first 1 or 2 of those holes. And if you run it all the way in there, it's going to block both of them, but there's still going to be airflow coming out of there because the threads aren't going to be really tight. So I just play around with it. And this was, like I said, covered in grease. Don't know why they needed so much grease on it. I could barely manually move it with this screwdriver. I could barely get it to move before I took it apart. It slides in there pretty good now. It's a little bit finicky that you got to make sure you get this O-ring in there. You don't want to pinch nothing, of course. And then actually I should have put this in there first. It slid right in. But that's your stabilizer system in your bolt. That's the whole thing. You know, any doubt about it, just ignore it and pretend it's not there. And you know, you may be able to feel some difference with it. I don't know. I'm still kind of iffy whether it's done much. But I know before it was so full of grease, there ain't no way it was doing anything. Matter of fact, I had to clean the thing quite a bit before I got where I could see light in those holes. Like I said, there was tons of crud in there. Yeah, you definitely don't want to do anything to that center probe. That's what seals on your O-ring inside your barrel. So All these little gauge pins, they're like, they're made in thousands, so you can measure holes. If you're curious, that's a 61, 62, and 63,000 one. Like I said, you can get a small drill bit and it would work. So this is back together. You know, I can take something, I can slide that around. It actually slides fairly good now. It was really hard to move before. So this sits in there like that, like I said, and that little pin goes up inside there. So to put this back together, we just reverse everything that we took apart. And this also rides on an O-ring. There's an O-ring inside this receiver. So none of this actually touches anything. But by polishing it looks better, I think. And it slides on that O-ring a lot smoother. So I mean, these guns are easy to cock, but this one's even easier now. Which is always good. So when you're putting this pin back together, this is part, I mean, this is, I think I'm eventually going to just drill a hole through the top here. Not the full size, but like so, a small punch will go through and punch that pin, because the pin is solid on top. That way I'll never ever have to worry about it. You know, if it did get stuck, you could do the math and measure the top of it and figure out how to drill a hole in the top and get a punch in there anyhow. But it'd be easier to drill a hole if you did it when the thing was apart. Maybe I'm wearing it in. It went in really easy that time, which was good. Maybe it gets easier after you put it in and out 2 or 3 times. So bolt is back in. Then you got to put this little bitty screw in there. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Yeah, it's not too bad, I guess. I'll take these little hemostats or whatever they are and drop it inside there. The pin kind of holds it in place. So lightly snug it. Nothing crazy you gotta do there. And then our hammer will go back in. And then the spring and spring guide and adjuster. Yeah, if I was over there, I'd take out the anti-tampers. So I had my left-hand screw, I had a hard time, I couldn't get it to move. But when I had this stripped down to a bare block, you know, I was at a point where there was nothing left for me to hurt. So I could have put heat to it then. I wasn't worried about much, you know. But I did get it to move after it was stripped down to a bare block. I pushed a little harder on it. I didn't want to do it when the gun was fully together because I knew I'd have to tear it down if it got boogered up inside there. But once it was already apart, I already had it apart, so it didn't make no difference to me. And I think I got my hammer spring on the right setting. I'm going to tighten this little screw up. And now it's just remembering how to put the trigger together, right? And did have a lot of grease in all these parts, like I said, and I took most of it. I cleaned everything up really good. I left a little bit where the parts actually rub. That's the only place you really need grease anyhow. I don't know what they were thinking. I had pictures on there of all the grease that was in the gun. I know a lot of people are iffy about taking the new gun apart, but you know, I can't. You know, I could never send mine back to Air Arms. It costs too much money to ship back and forth. But I don't let nobody work on my guns. I don't give a rat's ass about the warranty. Anything that can be fixed, I can fix it. If I can't fix it, it's not fixable. So I try to encourage my friends to be brave and work on their guns, because you're going to care about your gun more than anybody else that's working on it will. So the trigger's almost back together. It's not quite popped into place. Can't remember which order this goes in. So this slips up inside there. So when you're tightening this up, that bushing does kind of move around. If it gets out of alignment, it'll stop, and you'll come to that flange will hit it. So you gotta make sure that bottom bushing stays lined up for that to go in there. It's just a little piece of Delrin. It's not metal or anything. Yeah, I didn't tighten this up a lot before. I just barely put a little tension on it to tighten her up. Doesn't have to be crazy. So let me get this piece back in there.